Good morning. Come on in. This is Yvette Owens of the Diplomat Chronicles, and I want to talk about today. I'm going to talk about today. Good morning. Welcome. Come on in. I'm going to talk about today. Who am I? That question has been on my mind, circulating. Let me get some of this light right. Um, who am I? Right? Who am I? We've answered that question traditionally based on what we do, who we're related to, um, the jobs we've had. But the question is, who am I? Who am I really? Who am I really? And I honestly started asking this question, and it came to my. I'm just adjusting here. It came to my mind in the morning as I was waking up, and I heard the question, "Who am I?" And I thought, I think honestly, I thought God was asking me the question, "Who am I?" And I didn't want to respond superficially to Him. I didn't want to answer Him based on the things that He's done for me, or which I know all those things are also a part of who He is, a provider. But when we get down to the real core of the question, the real essence of the question, who am I? My question is, how should we answer that? How should we answer that question? And so today I wanted to talk about that, share some information on how you can answer that more deeply and really intrigue more interest and let people know who you are. Again, as I was growing up, my parents were very well known in the community, and people often referenced me as that's Mr. Carey's daughter, or that's Miss Carey's daughter, or that's Cinda Gaskin's granddaughter. So that's how they thought they knew who I was, but they really didn't know me. And this year, as we've gone through this year, I think it's given many of us time to reflect on what's important to us. If we've got time for us to get to know ourselves, for us to understand what situations we handle rather effectively versus those situations that we need help with. Um, we've become aware more of the emotions that we deal with well versus those that we haven't. So I believe if you've taken the time to really reflect, introspect, you have gained some insight as to who you are. So I'm pulling us away from today the resume, the traditional resume. When someone lists, and we've gone to those dinner parties or those after hour happy hours or those after hours networking events, and said people say, "Hey, how you doing?" And the first question they answer is, "What do you do?" And we're ready with that answer, and we just start to name off skills. We start to name off jobs we've had, but we don't even necessarily talk about the talents or the skills that we've gained and what strengths we bring to the situation. So I want to talk about today, what are our 6 values and how we can understand those values far better than what we've done before, right? Um, we are far greater than our position. We're far greater than um, who we're related to, and that's not to negate that. But there are some values that how do we know we bring value? How do we know we bring value? How do we know what our value is so that we can make sure people don't underestimate it? How do we know that? And so, want to just share those with you. So, first and foremost are our core values, right? And I'm going to share my screen because I have a tool that we can use to really define our value. And so, what are our core values? They're the beliefs of a person or what we have. They dictate our behavior. It helps us to difference between what's right and what's wrong. It helps us to differentiate the right path versus the wrong path. This is our core value, where our loyalty lies, where our passion is, where we can be reliable, if we're honest, dependable. They're all examples of our core value. So today we're talking about 6 things that can help you define or connect with or reconnect with what value you bring. And so if you can define your core values as it's defined here, here's a list that's greater defines even examples are you dependable? Are you optimistic? Are you positive? Are you competent? Can people depend on you coming with respect? Are you passionate? Do you persevere? So no matter what comes up, no matter what happens, you're going to keep pushing through. And I think many of us may have learned that we do have perseverance as a core value. And if we didn't, this year has brought us to the place where we've had to really, really persevere. We had to really push through what we've gone through. We've become strong. We've learned that we're stronger than what we ever thought we were. So again, who am I? Our core values start to define that. Our core values start to define that. Again, you're far greater than your relationship to someone. You're far greater than Joey's mom. You're far greater than, someone's sister. You are far greater than even your role or your title. But who are you at your core? Are you reliable? Are you dependable? Are you thorough? Are you accurate? Are you fun-loving? All those core values help to define your value and what you bring. And we need to start speaking in those tones. We need to start speaking in that realm. So who am I? And what's your core value? Core value being the first one. So again, the tool that I'm talking about is the value resume. And this value resume allows you to document those things that we don't think about documenting, those things that we don't think about when we're talking about what we bring to the table. And so here is the first one, core values. And once you notice those and review those core values in those examples, then you can define and document what are your core values. Secondly is my personality. That's the characteristics that influence my behavior across situations. I think, how you feel, how you behave. Personality is a result of our families and the environment factor. It's a trait such as I'm an introvert, or I'm friendly, or I'm conscientious, or there's honesty in my personality. I'm agreeable, or I'm always agreeable, or I'm open to conversation. I'm social. I'm moody. You can be moody. You can be a helpful person. So when you're talking about your personality value, you want to define what your personality is. What's those things that you want to be known of? Now, we're going to find some things when we're going through this value resume that might not feel good, or we might not think is going to be received well. So you want to make sure you really don't avoid those things that don't feel good. Just reflect on them, think about them, go through them, really define what they mean to you, because it may sound negative to someone else or outside, but if there's a good quality there that could be misconstrued because of how society thinks of it or how we have traditionally thought of it, don't um, don't dismiss it. Don't dismiss it, but continue to think about what that really means to you and how you define it. And if you can define it as a positive, then still use it. Still use it as a value that bring. And be honest with people. Hey, most people don't think this is a good thing, of value to them when you're coming to the table. But let me tell you why this is a good value that you want to see and utilize from me. So one of the things, example coming to mind is those people will ask a lot of questions. You know, when you're trying to get through something and you're trying to get a project done, um, you're trying to get a task completed, and then there's that person that always asks those questions. Well, what about this? Or, well, what if this happens? Or what if so and so says this? And you're like, look, sometimes it's like, I don't really want to hear all that. We just want to get this done. But do you know, I've learned that those people who ask questions are raising those questions, and we think of them as resistance. But in all actuality, it's really helping you to thoroughly think through and prepare for what you're heading into. So don't miss those people who ask those questions. Don't miss those people, dismiss those who say, well, we tried this, but it didn't work. We tried that, but it didn't work. And that's good information that we can utilize that will help us to be better prepared for those other folks who are going to ask those questions. And we can address it right off in the beginning. So we've talked about core values being a part, personality value, and then my lessons learned. We often want to go away from times when we've had bad experiences or the experiences weren't so positive. We didn't perform our very best. But you know what? There are lessons to be learned and to grow upon. And so take the time to consider those lessons learned. And not every lesson learned is a negative lesson. There's positive lessons that we've learned. We've gone through and we worked with a team or a group of people, and that the elements of their humanity and their personalities and their core values that came in had you as a leader to shift how you were going to respond to that group. And so the more groups you deal with, you learn that you can't just cookie cutter going in working with every team the same way, because every team is made up of different people. And some are very diverse. You could get a stream of different groups to work with, and those groups could be very similar. So it may feel like what you did before will work this time. But honestly, you could come up against a team of people that work with that you've never worked with those type of people before, even though they may have the same demographics. I have an example. I work with young people in churches, and I've worked with young people for 20 some years. And I've worked with them in church and in community, and they all seem to come with the same type of make up, the same type of approach to what we were accomplishing, whether we were doing a production, a play, a production, or whether we were making changes in our community and bringing skill sets to other young people in the community. They all came with a positive attitude that they really wanted to make a difference. But then I ran up into a group of young people who I was placed as a leader over, and they didn't want anything to do with the group that they were in. They were being forced to do it. They didn't really want anything to do with me and my style. And I had never run up against that. And they were so adamant about it that they were disrespectful. They were belligerent. I mean, they had had it. They had had enough of what they'd been forced to do, and they wanted out, and they didn't care who knew about it. And I was an easy target because I was new to this organization, so they didn't have to come away come from the perspective of, oh, we have to respect Miss Yvette because we grew up knowing her, we know she knows our parents really well, or anything like that. They were like, I'm treating you like Miss in the school system, and I'm not doing this. So again, that was a lesson learned that I can't approach every group of young people that I work with the same way because they're not hearing. They may not be ready for it. And then how do you get that engagement that I'm used to walking into? How do I create that level of engagement that I was needing to? So you have to, there were lessons learned that I walked away from, that I now take forward into my next engagements and my next assignments. And then we have our education and our training. So I mentioned that we're moving away from the resume, right? The resume thought process, excuse me. But we don't throw away our education and our training. And often in a resume, education and training is at the bottom. This is where you focus in the value resume. You want to focus on what education have you received, what training have you received, because that's important. In the traditional resume, and I know we've gone through evolutions of the resume in the last few years, but you really want to bring forth what is not only the job that you held, but what lessons did I learn? What training did I receive? What education? How did I use the education and training that I have to make that organization better? So that's my education. And then the skills that I gain, right? What's my natural talents and strengths? So we're all come with some natural talents. We all come with some natural strengths. And then what skills do I have because I experienced the training, because I did complete the task, because I did complete the assignments. So you want to make sure you're focusing on those skills and abilities that you have because of all the experiences that you've gone through. So the final step in the value resume is to summarize your value. Summarize your value based on your core values, your personality traits, your lessons learned, education, and skills. Not position, not job. Right? You want to summarize your value, that you can share that with others. You can easily talk about it from based on your core values, personality traits, lessons learned, education, and skills. And for me, my core values, in some examples, I would explain to someone what value do I bring to the table is I believe that every person has a strength that we all need. I believe that every person has at least one strength, if not more. I believe that every person has gifts and talents that we all need to share, and that it takes all of us to come together. Through collaboration, we weave a tapestry that is so beautiful and that shapes the outcome of whatever we're tackling in a whole different level, on a whole different level, versus instead of if it was just a single person. So I come looking and open for collaboration. I come looking and open for people to contribute and bring their best selves. I don't believe that anybody should come to the table thinking that they're just there to observe. You're there at the table because you're bringing something to that. So my core value, a core value is that I respect people that are coming to the table. I respect those in my presence. I'm looking for the greatness in everyone because I believe in my very core that everyone has an essence and a greatness that I can glean from, I can learn from. And this is regardless of how young or how old. So I go in asking questions. I am inquisitive. I even challenge sometimes the norm. I do challenge the norm, which is why I'm presenting this whole value resume. I challenge the norm. My personality, believe it or not, is naturally an introvert, but over my career, I've had to become more of an extrovert. I couldn't be an introvert. I had to be able to step forward, speak, and share my thoughts, position myself at the table so I can be heard, not letting people over talk me, not letting people dismiss me. All of that. Um, and then my skill in those there are skills through my lessons learned, and I am a project. I manage change. I manage change. I can get things done and get them done in a fashion that it's the right thing to do at the right time, in the right way, with the right people in that right moment. And too often people judge what was done because they're in a different time. They have different information. They have more information. They have different resources. So the outcome could be very different at that time based on the differences that different elements that you're dealing with. But at the moment, what's the best decision that we can make to complete our assignment or our task with the greatest quality and balancing quality, cost, time, and our resources. That's what I bring to the table. And to make sure, excuse me, that I'm bringing the best out of people. So I hope this is helpful for you, that when you're defining who you are, dig deeper than your job. Dig deeper than your job. Dig deeper than I'm Miss May's granddaughter. Dig deeper than where you live. Dig deeper than I'm Bob's mom, right? Your core values, your personality traits, your skills, your talents, your lessons learned, all help to define who you are. So, how should we answer the question, who am I? Really take the time, and I'm going to put in the link in the feed, a link to you so you can get to the value resume and you can complete your value resume as I've walked through this today. I hope this is helpful to you, and I'll see you next time. This is again Yvette Owens from the Diplomat Chronicles. Have an awesome Saturday.